What do you think is more dangerous to the upliftment of our community? A quote unquote Uncle Tom or a racist white person?
I'd probably say an Uncle Tom, so to speak. Only because those are the ones who are sort of sabotaging from within. You know what I'm saying? The open enemy, we understand who the open enemy is for the most part. It's the ones that we continue to roll with, that we think see things the way we see things. All of our organizations wasn't brought down by white folks, or at least not, internally. All of them organizations were internally brought down by our own in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Somebody paid them, or they didn't see the perspective, or just the overall conditioning from slavery and so-called slavery. I said that for my Moorish brothers.
I was listening to it, so like going over what he said and what you was addressing. He said 99% of the Canaanland Moors have license plates, and 99% of them have driver's license, or I think he said driver's license. Don't quote me on that. Then he says 100 of them, though 100% of them reserve the rights on those contracts, meaning that I guess when they sign those contracts, they put some type of UCC code on the contract. Now, what do he mean by reserving their rights?
That's bullshit. Because what he mean? Because remember, he said I put down the straw man. When they say straw man, they talking about your legal name, the name you was given with birth. They tell people that you don't need that name. That makes you a corporation, and that means the government owns you. That's your slave name. Get rid of it.
I have a fez on. The line that says signature, I have all rights reserved, and then I have the straw signature over that. Because I know how to live within contracts.
The fraud of a driver's license is not in your interest. When they gave you that driver's license, it was to incorporate you as a corporate person, was not an instrument for identification. Is everyone aware of that? You aware of that? Everyone aware of that? What we have to do as free Moors is begin a process and a consciousness amongst the people to neutralize that instrument. Some of us use it now because of whatever purposes, to transport, etc., but understand that it's a commercial instrument. It is not your identification, your pedigree, bloodline, anything like that. And you'll notice that all driver's license have it, the nomen written in all capital letters, which you all know, which indicates a corporation, an artificial person, an instrument. All right. Now that instrument comes under excise tax, and the excise tax is a system that is set up for corporate activity and for taxing corporations in the capacity of having a privilege or benefit of operating in a corporate capacity, i.e. dealing with mercantile instruments or products of merchandise, sales, etc., and the movement of those things. Now, one thing that you must recognize, and I know you do recognize, are you that? Is anyone a movable instrument? Did somebody manufacture you? Are you a living, breathing being, thinking being? Well, what the driver's license does, it identifies or tags moving property. And you must understand that. And the reason I'm telling you these things, and the reason we're doing this particular lecture, is because if that's not addressed by the people on a serious matter, it will be used, as it has been used, to profile you, to extract revenues from you as chattel property. And most people are under the impression that slavery in the Union State Society had ended. Well, the driver's license is one of the major instruments that is used politically to sustain slavery.
The line that says signature, I have all rights reserved, and then I have the straw signature over that. Because I know how to live within contracts.
He says he puts that name down and then he reserves rights, which means that he says he writes, like say for example, his name is Johnson Robinson. He writes down Johnson Robinson, and then he says at the bottom of the paper that he filled out, he writes, I reserve my rights. Like that changes anything. That don't change nothing, dog. And we don't even know if you really do that or not. You saying you do that. And anyway, why are you doing that when you got the nationality cards? When you are Moorish American and you got all the paperwork, you done proclaimed your nationality, this land belongs to you, the U.S. government is a fraud, the only real government is the United States of America Republic that the Moors set up and the Moors own and run.
And to the Republic for which it stands, one nation under God.
You know, they added that part in 1954.
Which part?
Under God.
Oh. And who were we under before that?
I don't know. Maybe we should ask the Moors. 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 Maybe we should ask the Moors.
So why are you even playing that game with them?
Now let me ask you this question, because like I said, I was watching some of the videos. So and we was talking about Taj Tariq Bey. Is the Canaanland Moors connected to him? Because I heard the brother say something about having a passport that he uses every time that he goes to Philly. And he says it's a passport that's issued by whatever government, whatever government he got it from. I guess it would be Canada or whatever. Whoever issues the passport. But he says within the picture, he says that he's wearing a fez, though. Does that make a difference with him having the fez on in this picture?
No, it doesn't make a difference because because you could say your religion is Moorish American. You're a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America. That's your religion. And that's your headdress for your religion. So they'll let you take a picture of it. Just like when people was doing this, I'm a Pastafarian thingy, and said I demand to take a picture with a noodle strainer on my head because Pastafarianism is my religion. People let them take pictures with that on their head.
So the woman goes, "What are you wearing? You have to take that off. You cannot take a picture with a bowl in your head. This is some type of joke to you. DMV is not a place to joke around in. Please take that off." And I was like, "Dear pasta gods, please help me." "Oh, no ma'am, this is actually my religion. It's called Pastafarian, and I worship the flying spaghetti monster." I've never seen a woman look at me like I was more crazy in my entire life. She goes like, "Do you have any proof that this is a religion that I can validate?" And I say, "Yes. I have a prayer that I pray every single night and times when I'm in trouble or need." She's like, "Can you recite it for me now?" Pasta, pasta, here and there. Pasta, pasta, everywhere. Pasta, pasta, near and far. Please help me wherever you are. And I literally made it up on spot. And I was so lucky that like it rhymed and it sounded like an actual kind of prayer. And she was like, "Okay." The woman comes back, she says, "Please take a seat." We take a seat for an hour and a half before they come to us and they say, "Come back up and you can take your picture." I've never been more happy in my entire life. Did not think I was gonna be able to take my picture. And if you guys don't believe me, here's the picture of the bowl in my head on my license. This is my license. And if you still don't believe me, so as you can see, that's me. It's the bowl in my head. It was definitely worth it. I would definitely do it again if I had the choice to go back in time. And if I would make that decision, I would make the same decision again because it was so worth it.
All right, now what you doing? Because I see you've been putting in a lot of work lately in dealing with this particular conversation. And doing what you're doing, are you addressing the document or not the document? I'm sorry. Are you addressing the doctrine or the ideology? Or are you specifically dealing with the paperwork issues?
The paperwork issue is the doctrine and the ideology. Because remember, the majority of Moors are paperwork Moors. So that's the doctrine and the ideology. They don't give two shits about Noble Drew Ali.
Omi tutu, hola tutu, tutu la rode, tutu ile, tutu olule, tutu loriwa, tutu egongo, tutu orisha, tutu, Edward Bay, tutu, Colonel C. Kirkman Bay,
Emmett Till.
Tutu Emmett Till, my grandmother's buried here, tutu, Queen Esther Jordan,
I'll just take off.
Is there more inside? Mojuba Eshudara, Mojuba Akoda, Mojuba Asheda, Mojuba Bogo Olorisha, Mojuba Bogo Orisha, Mojuba Bogo Egungu, Mojuba Bogo Egungu Dilemi, Mojuba Baba, Mojuba Yeye, Mojuba Baba Yakba, Mojuba Yakba, Mojuba Oluwo Baba Medahoji, Kofi Oluwali Sanwil, Mojuba Ashe Ifa, talk.
Eguna Lafia.
Like really, like they don't pray. Like in that, I think in that clip, he also talked about how his temple they don't even be praying. They don't pray to Noble Drew Ali. They don't do none of the spiritual stuff.
Let's all rise and give the honors. Five on the left, two on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth.
Peace.
Freedom.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
And
my salvation. By night.
By
day. Through his holy prophet. Noble Drew Ali. Islam. Two on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love. Truth. Peace. Freedom. And justice. Allah is my protector. My guide. And my salvation. By night. And by day. Through his holy prophet. Noble Drew Ali. Islam. Peace, Moors. We're here. Welcome for our 7th annual Noble Drew Ali Day celebration. Give it up for the Prophet. We also give it up for yourselves for being here. I'm Kudjo Adwo, Grand Chief for the Moorish Science Temple of America, Moorish Divine National Movement, Moorish Holy Temple of Science, for Canaanland territory. We every year we make sure that we follow the lessons of one of our great leaders, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who taught us that we have to canonize our own saints, meaning that if we don't respect our own, there ain't nobody gonna respect us until we respect our own. So We have our ritual that we got to do, making sure we get, you know, the ancestors on our side. So we're just gonna start off with our prayer. If we could have everybody rise, whoever doesn't want to take part, please hold your peace. We're facing the east, which is this way. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Yeah, right. Allah, the Father of the universe. Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation. By night and by day, through his holy prophet, Noble Ali, Islam. Ashe.
All right, and then something else he said. He said that President Wilson sold the government to the Jesuits in 1913.
Not true. President Wilson did not sell the government. Please show me, where did you get this information? Like, I'm not talking about to you per se, but I'm talking to them. Show me where you got this secret information where you found out, where Taj Tariq Bey knows that President Wilson sold the government to the Jesuit order, and how did he find this information out, and why is he still alive? Like, this is fake.
But the most profound change happened in 1913 when they pushed the Federal Reserve Act through, basically handing over the power to print or to coin money that was rightfully the government's. They handed it over to a private central bank, the Federal Reserve, which is nothing more than a conglomerate of some of the largest banks. That was the beginning of the end of American sovereignty.
When we have restored the price level, we shall seek to establish and maintain a dollar which will not change its purchasing and debt-paying power during the succeeding generation.
Soon, income taxes would be imposed on the people, solely in order to pay for the interest on the money that was created by the Federal Reserve.
98 to the present.
In order to create the central bank, certain obstacles had to be overcome. First, those opposed to a central bank would need to be removed, and secondly, the law would need to be changed, or simply appear to be changed. To deal with the troublesome individuals who opposed a central bank, the Jesuits spared no expense. They built a ship of death called the Titanic.
The sinking of the Titanic was the design of the Jesuit order to get rid of the opposition to the creation of a central bank in the United States.
And the men on the Titanic were opposed to a central bank. They had to die. Among those were John Jacob Astor, Isidor Straus, Benjamin Guggenheim, and a host of other millionaires who were opposed to a central bank in America. Therefore, they had to be taken out of the way, and they were on the Titanic.
The company building the ship was owned by J.P. Morgan, who was himself an agent of the Rothschilds family, the Rothschilds being the bankers for the Pope and the Vatican. The main Jesuit targets were brought on board. The captain of the ship was Edward John Smith. It appears from his actions that Captain Smith was a Jesuit coadjutor, that is, a Jesuit who has taken the oath but does not wear the robes. A coadjutor blends into the scenery and never looks like a Jesuit priest. It is a veteran sea captain, Edward Smith, who orders the ship to travel through an 80-square-mile ice field at full speed on a moonless night. There had been over 8 telegrams warning the captain of the danger.
He's warned 8 times, slow the ship down, slow the Titanic down, you're going too fast. Not once stopped. Knew there was an iceberg field up ahead, knew that he should have slowed down, but didn't. And so you look and you say, how was it that this man could go headlong into a field of icebergs and not slow the ship down, not be more careful? The only conclusion you can draw is, as a coadjutor of the Jesuit order, right through the line, the chain of command, he was told, sink the ship. And he did. On board the Titanic, and this is all documented in a National Geographic video that was put out in 1986. You can go to your local library and they'll either have it on hand or they can, get it on library loan. But on that videotape, it shows that as the Titanic was coming up along the coast of England, it had various stops. And at one stop, a Jesuit priest got on board. His name was Francis Brown. Francis Brown got on board the Titanic, took pictures of all of the wealthy people, took pictures of Edward Smith, the captain, and then, just before the Titanic set sail across the Atlantic, Francis Brown got off. And then, of course, the Titanic sunk.
Well, Francis Brown is given a camera by his bishop, by his uncle, the bishop, and he is told to go down and take all these pictures of all these people we're going to kill in first class. And so that's what he does. He takes pictures of all these rich people, everybody that's there is going to go down, and a rich passenger offers him passage. Well, he knows the ship's going to go down, but he very sheepishly got in contact with his provincial. And the provincial's message was, get off that ship.
Like Brown, another noted passenger, Jesuit agent J.P. Morgan, did not make the ill-fated sea voyage. Even though booked on the ship for passage to America, Morgan also fortuitously canceled at the last minute.
Of course, J.P. Morgan, he had his own suite reserved for him. And there were some 55 men who at the last minute canceled their reservations on the Titanic. J.P. Morgan was one of them. Said he was sick. Oh, by the way, and don't load any of my art treasures on the Titanic either. So he didn't have any of his art treasures on it either. Didn't lose any of that.
How do we know there was foul play involved with the Titanic? When the iceberg was sighted, it was First Officer Murdoch who attempted to port around the deadly object. This was sound enough, but Murdoch also ordered the engines into reverse. Author Wynne Wade asked the obvious question. As long as Murdoch was trying to veer out of the iceberg's way, why had he jammed on the brakes, so to speak, by throwing the engines full speed astern? In point of fact, the 1910 edition of Knight's Modern Seamanship clearly contradicted Murdoch's decision. The instructions are clear. Avoid reversing the engines. Wade sums up the situation by saying, Murdoch had maneuvered in a manner more likely to cause collisions than to prevent them. As with many who investigated the Titanic disaster, author Wynne Wade was at a loss to explain Murdoch's actions in going against the book. But the captain and Murdoch's actions were not the only telltale signs of treachery on the night the Titanic sank.
We see all sorts of anomalies on the Titanic. For example, when it was sinking, the emergency flares were to be red so that ships in those lanes could see the Titanic was in trouble. Well, someone had taken away the red flares and replaced them with white flares, making it look like we were shooting off flares and having a party. And then the loading of the boats, we know that was a fraud. They didn't allow the lifeboats to be completely loaded. They were only half loaded, some 1/3 loaded, because the targets in the first class could not be allowed to board. And the Jesuits were not only the captain, but his officers, and there had been a strike in England at the time, and the men who were normally the ones who would man the ocean liners, they were replaced by Jesuit coadjutors ready to board because they were all under oath to die for the Black Pope if necessary, and so they did carry out the sinking of the Titanic.
But how is it possible that men will commit suicide as Captain Smith and some of his hand-picked crew obviously did?
We have to understand that these men have died to their own self-will. And so they have completely been emptied of their own personalities, and upon the order of their commander will do exactly what they're told. There's no such thing as a disobedient Jesuit. This serves as a warning to all the other men of power, not only in our country, but in England and Europe. You mess with us, and we're going to do to you what we did to all those people on Titanic, and we're going to thwart the investigation. because a subsequent investigation of the sinking of Titanic blamed Bruce Ismay, the right-hand man of J.P. Morgan, and Captain Ward of England. They were the scapegoats, when they could have easily blamed the men of power at that time. Saw who canceled their reservations. It was a Warren Commission all over again. 9/11 Commission all over again. It's a whitewash and cover-up, and that cover-up is even more powerful than the murder itself.
After many of the leading opponents to a central bank had been removed, the Jesuits moved to obtain passage of the 16th Amendment and the Federal Reserve Act, both in 1913.
So they created the Federal Reserve Bank to finance their crusades. Without the Federal Reserve Bank, there's no war in Iraq.
Hold on, so Taj Tariq Bey is basically the person who's the Moorish individual who began to like push this paperwork the way that it's being pushed right now.
Yes, he's the master teacher of this paperwork stuff. He's the one who even introduced people to the Zodiac Constitution, something that was written by C.M. Bey.
So this ain't got nothing to do with Noble Drew Ali.
No, this is basically C.M. Bey. This is like C.M. Bey, after Noble Drew Ali died, made a bunch of bullshit, and then Taj Tariq Bey basically took the bullshit, combined it with sovereign citizen bullshit, and poured it in the pot, threw some indigenous stuff on it, threw some Hebrew Israelite stuff on it, and mixed it up some more, and gave it back to the people.
What did you learn in 3rd grade grammar?
Capitalize your nouns.
You capitalize nouns, correct? If you don't capitalize a noun, then it must not be a noun, am I correct? But if all the letters are capitalized, it's not a proper noun, is it? It's grammatically incorrect if it's directed at a person, correct? Why do you think that was done? Do you think it's accidental? What occurs, you had that and you don't object?
You agree to it.
You agree, you waived, didn't you? And when you waive, you assume that that's you, don't you? And even when they write letters to you in response where they're suing you, and tickets are suits. If you didn't know that now. If you get a ticket on that instrument, it's a suit. They're suing you. And they're suing you for breach of contract. Are you aware of that? All right. And a summons is not a warrant. But there's treated accordingly, isn't it? Because it's chattel property.